So back in 2020, I, Steven Shinder, started a podcast called Delayed Replay, recapping and reviewing the latest films. However, it got broadcast into an alternate universe, where those films got delayed and came out differently from how I was describing them. Because of how me and my guests had been describing the films, people in that other universe were saying that this was all an improvised comedy podcast, which, listening back, I can totally get why they believe that. A lot of weird stuff happened in that first year, and I even met my other self from that other universe, who pops in from time to time, for better or worse. And now, in the year 2023, this podcast continues, still recapping and reviewing movies and sometimes some other things that got delayed or cancelled in that other universe. A new episode Saturdays every other week, unless I decide otherwise for some special reason or whatever. You are listening to Delayed Replay, Season 4.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed or canceled in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, as always, Steven Shinder, and joining me for the Season 4 premiere of this podcast starting 2023 with MIB 23. It is Greg once again. What did you eat recently, dude?
Hello, dude. I had some French toast. It was so good, and yeah, I'm happy to be here on the premiere. I think this is the second time.
Yeah, because you were on the season 2 premiere with James and Ted. So yeah.
Lucky me.
Yeah, I guess you could say we're international, or MIB international. But sure. That came after this one. So, yeah, in our universe, Sony went ahead and developed MIB 23. The Men in Black Jump Street crossover came out in 2017 for us, sort of for the 30th anniversary of the Jump Street franchise and the 20th anniversary of the first Men in Black movie that people really liked. It's a key word there. So, yeah, and like as we talk about this, we'll like go into like how this really worked as a crossover. But just to start off, Greg, what have been your experiences with the Men in Black and Jump Street franchises from what you can remember?
Well, with the Jump Street franchise, I never saw the TV series, which I'm pretty sure the same with pretty much everyone. Like, I don't know anyone who's actually seen the TV show.
Oh, I've actually seen it.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah. I watched it on Hulu several years ago during college. It's a bit more serious than the movies, which were more comedic and over the top, which I think was for the betterment of it, because I thought the movies were hilarious, but go on. Like, sorry, I interrupted you. So just continue.
No, I was saying that we don't have Hulu here, so probably there's no way for me to watch it easily. Well, for the Jump Street, I found them kind of funny. Like, they're kind of stupid funny. It's like if Jackass was like written properly. Yeah, like if Jackass had a story, it would be Jump Street.
Yeah, like my brain can't really comprehend the idea of Jackass with a story, but yeah, like the Jump Street movies have these like running gags and stuff, and I really liked how the second one, 22 Jump Street, got more meta and sort of deconstructive, kind of overplaying the tropes that people use in the sequel, where they try to go bigger and sometimes try to do like the same thing all over again. And like the ending where it advertised like 20 more sequels or whatever was just freaking amazing.
They should have said 21 prequels, but
Right, yeah, it is kind
'Cause-
of weird that they didn't advertise a prequel there, but yeah. Like
Well, the other 20 movies.
yeah, Jump Street Origins.
Oh no.
One of my favorites in that sequence was Jump Street Generations, where it had a couple of the older characters from the show very briefly. Like I think Booker was there, and it all like culminates with like 2121 Jump Street, where they go into space. Yeah, like that was the last poster that they showed at the end of 22 Jump Street, I think. And there was also Jump Street, the animated series, where it looks like a cheesy 1980s cartoon adaptation. But yeah, what do you think of the Men in Black movies that you've seen?
Yeah, I only just got around to them quite recently, and yeah, I really enjoy them. Like, I think the third one has my favorite character in it. The guy you can see in like 5 dimensions or whatever. He's just hilarious. And then I
Yeah.
like how it like goes. It's kind of like a Harry Potter thing where they go back in time. You kind of see how he became embroiled in like the Men in Black thing in the first place. It was quite cool.
Yeah, Harry Potter is of course the only thing where people go back in time before Men in Black 3. There's like no other movies or shows that ever did that.
Yeah, there's definitely not a series called Back to the Future. But I
Right,
mean,
yeah, what's
like,
that?
as in like it explains some stuff which you didn't know about in a way through time travel.
Okay, gotcha.
Because like you remember in Prison of Azkaban when he goes back, he realizes that he was the one that did it.
Yeah.
The Patronus. So it's like kind of finding new information by going back in time.
Yeah, like it's kind of the opposite type of time travel as with Back to the Future, whereas in Back to the Future, when they go back in time, they do change things and it
Yeah.
creates a branching reality. Yeah. So MIB 23 begins with what feels like the end of 2121 Jump Street, where they're in space. And so we see Schmidt and Janko, Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum's characters like in this absurd action sequence in space and like falling through the atmosphere. Like, what'd you think of this particular sequence?
It was absolutely insane. Like it felt like I was watching the Machete 3 trailer.
Yeah, Machete kills again in space. Yeah, I mean, they had him in an episode of Book of Boba Fett, but he didn't do much. Like, that's the closest.
Yeah, wasn't that when he was trying to sell him a Rancor?
Yeah, he was like the Rancor handler or something.
How far the mighty have fallen. He used to sell drugs.
So they are in space and they're fighting off like this they're always going after like these drug lords, and so they're fighting this guy who's like a space drug lord, and like he refers to it as Spice, so like a Dune or Star Wars shout out there. What'd you think of the actor that they got to play this space drug lord?
Well, gladly it was Danny Trejo. So
Yeah.
he was perfect, but like he was kind of in like he had all the makeup on, like to be the alien. Like it wasn't CG'd, it was you can clearly see his like wrinkled ass face.
Yeah, that's why when I said before that Book of Boba Fett was the closest, I meant because like he still looks human in that, so he could be Machete. Whereas here he's clearly alien and a different character. So yeah, it was a surprise seeing him because like you could still recognize that it's him, but the alien makeup is still pretty good. I think he has like a bunch of antennae and. He also has 10 eyes on his face that are like all black and like these like really sharp teeth. And it was just like you could tell he was having fun filming this sequence. And I bet Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum were probably geeking out, like hanging out with Danny Trejo on set or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely had more of like the Men in Black team working on this on this film. because of all the talent that they have with their particle effects from the earlier movies, really shows in this one.
Yeah, and there's a moment where Danny Trejo punches like through the glass of Schmidt's astronaut suit, and so he's trying to hold his breath and not die. And Janko tries saving him. He's like, "I'll give you mouth to mouth." Wait, I can't because my helmet's closed, and it was just so unrealistic that like Schmidt would survive this, but it's just like already ridiculous to kind of go with
Then
it.
he just take it off anyway because they're like, "I'll die for you," and then like they just start like kind of making out.
Yeah, they're like falling through they're like burning through the atmosphere, and it's set to the Whitney Houston song where it's like, "And I will always love you." And Danny Trejo is just on fire and screaming.
Oh, that was insane.
Yeah, but they end up landing on this like strategically placed they call it like a space age mattress. Apparently it's like developed by like the government or something, so like Ice Cube's character coordinates so that it lands it's set like directly below them, so Schmidt and Janko survive, but Danny Trejo's character misses it and like splats on the ground and just dies.
It's like the Rock scene when he like aim for the bushes.
Wait, from which movie?
The other guys.
Oh, it's been forever since I've seen that movie. But yeah, I vaguely remember like the jumping off. Yeah.
Aim for the bushes, and there are no bushes anywhere.
Yeah, that movie was surprisingly funny, I think.
Yeah, just killed off the Rock in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, but like after Danny Trejo's character splats, the effects look kind of cheap, like just like applesauce and stuff, and
It was clearly a dummy.
Yeah, and they even like poke fun at it by saying, "Huh, what a dummy! He should have landed on the mattress." And Ice Cube's character is like, "We would have gotten another one, but you know we're making budget cuts to make sure the money goes where it really counts." You know, so you know they just continue to be meta.
Like we didn't get him to look this good as an alien without taking some cuts somewhere else.
Yeah. So they go to their Jump Street headquarters, and they mention a line about how like over the last couple years or so they kept having to like move to like different, like basically move across the street and then back across like zigzags so that they'd end up with all the different Jump Street numbers, like 23 Jump Street and 37 and whatever, etc. I don't know, I guess they're really bad at keeping their lease and just kept having to move, but now they're finally back at 23 Jump Street. And they also like mention like all the other adventures. They have like photos of like some of them on the wall and stuff. And then Ice Cube's character, I always forget his character's name. I just think of him as Ice Cube because like that's who he is.
Captain Dixon.
Oh, actually, yeah, I think you're right. It is Captain Dixon.
Nice.
So they go into his office, and Schmidt's like, "Hey, Captain Dixon, how's your daughter?" And he's like, "Shut up about my daughter." You know, just referencing when they hooked up in the second movie. And he's like, "All right, for your bravery in the space mission, y'all are going to MIB headquarters." And they're like, "Huh, what's that?" And he basically explains what the Men in Black are, and it's really weird because it takes him a while to explain it to them. It's almost as if they're treating this as if it could be someone's first Men in Black movie. But yeah, how long was this explanation?
Must have been at least like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was like super long. And like Ice Cube it's fun to hear him narrate, but he was also like telling us stuff we already knew, so it was kind of annoying.
You kind of see Janko and Schmidt just like falling asleep.
Yeah.
And then they keep like flicking their nuts to get them to wake up again.
Yeah, because he has a bowl of nuts on the desk, so he's like flicking them at their faces.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. But what I am surprised about is how Ice Cube's character knew about the Men in Black, because like he never says how he came into contact with them.
Yeah, in that 5-minute explanation, he never says how. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we're just supposed to assume that this particular, like a particular sect of law enforcement is more connected to Men in Black.
Or he is an alien.
Yeah, he's like Ice-T, who was actually from space.
Lipton's iced tea.
Yeah, the best tea. Well, Lipton's green tea is my favorite tea. Yeah, I know, controversial, perhaps.
It's probably not even tea.
Yeah, they're assigned to Men in Black headquarters because of how well they did in the space mission. And so they get there and they get the tour, and it basically kind of feels like they're getting a tour of Google or something, like in the internship, which I was like rewatching.
I was thinking of that
recently.
movie.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because they're not going undercover as Men in Black agents. They're basically training here. Whereas later in the movie, they're going to try going undercover with like some alien drug operation. But for this first bit of the movie, they basically have orientation and they're trying to like get the lay of the land.
But it is kind of weird how they still act like school children, like school students, because they've been undercover as students for so long they forgot that they're not actually undercover. So they're just like pretending to be kids whilst they're being shown around, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, and so they are acting really immature, and like all the other like trainees who are either around their age or even like maybe a little bit younger are kind of like rolling their eyes at them and being like all judgmental and stuff because
Like
of how immature
they're just
they're
going
being.
around touching everything.
Yeah. Yeah, like their superiors have to keep reminding them to like just not touch like what's around. And like I think one of them even says, "Why do you keep forgetting? Someone's already using a neuralizer on you or something." And they're like, "Wait, what's a neuralizer?" And then we get like a 5-minute scene explaining what a neuralizer is. It's like this
They
PowerPoint.
accidentally neuralize each other. And
Yeah,
they forget where they are.
Yeah, they forget where they are and they forget about all their adventures and who like they basically forgot everything other than they forgot everything like post high school. So they only remember that Janko used to bully Schmidt, and so Schmidt's like kind of weirded out to see him there, and they're weirded out that they look so different, but Janko has like the urge to beat Schmidt up, and Schmidt is like really scared of him. It's like we basically have this sequence where they've regressed to who they were like in the beginning of 21 Jump Street before the like flash forward, and they become basically like best friends, brothers even in a way. But yeah, I thought this was kind of annoying that they regressed for a bit because I like seeing these guys bond, but I don't know. Like, what did you think?
Yeah, I think they've already done enough bonding for my liking in the previous movies.
Oh, so you're really loving seeing them like fight each other here?
Well, I mean, like, it was just irritating that they had to go back and do that. Like, even though they regressed, like, you didn't really have to, like, having them to rebond for the rest of the movie. Because, like, we've seen that already.
Yeah, it basically felt like they were doing the same thing because I guess they don't know like what to do with them if they're not at odds with each other.
Yeah, you gotta have something going on.
Yeah. But they're basically told that they need to pay attention and like watch all these like lectures and PowerPoint presentations. And they're like, man, I never realized it would be so boring learning to be some secret agent fighting aliens.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, that's what Schmidt did. I don't know if you see him did that.
Yeah.
He just burped during another presentation.
Yeah, and then everyone's like looking at them, and once again, it's like they're being really immature. They're being like really high school, and it's basically, I guess we're trying to get back to the Jump Street tradition, like trying to maintain that in the DNA of this crossover in a way. But yeah, what'd you think of the training sequence where they learn to like use all the gadgets and weapons and stuff?
Well, it was just hilarious because they kept them like shooting each other, and like they kept on getting like a medic to come over and like reattach arms and legs and stuff.
Yeah, like there's a gadget that makes their limbs come off by accident, and they try reattaching, but they end up with each other's limbs on each other's torsos.
And then like they had to keep on like they had a Monty Python bit where one of them like had no arms or legs.
Yeah. Yeah, like the Black Knight, right?
Yeah.
And they try like detach. Well, they're fighting each other and detaching each other's arms and trying to slap each other with their detached
Yes.
arms. But yeah, the instructors basically have to like fix them up and like tell them to get it together. And they go through this training sequence where they're running on a track, like one of those track and field things, which I don't remember if the Men in Black ever, like if any of the other movies ever show them doing anything like this.
I
But
don't think so.
yeah, like what did you think of this addition?
Yeah, I don't really like it, to be fair.
Yeah, it gave me PTSD for like physical education in high school.
Like, come on, keep his legs up.
Right, and like at the end of they try to motivate everyone here by like saying that at the end of the racetrack there's some cake with a lot of whipped cream on top, but when they get there it's like, oh, they lied, there's none of it there.
Yeah, they're just a pile of dog shit. And they're like, oh, nice. I do not need to see that.
Yeah, the instructors are like, the lesson here is that things aren't always what they appear to be, so you got to keep your eyes peeled. And so they continue being at MIB headquarters and getting familiar with stuff. The cafeteria does have free food, and it's like chimichanga day. So you were saying something about chimichangas before we got on, right?
Yeah, they just don't exist. They are only in Shrek, and they do not exist in real life. Because I've never seen one.
No, yeah, and I was telling you they're real. I've seen them. And Deadpool loves chimichangas, so
But that is still a movie, so.
Deadpool can break the fourth wall, so checkmate.
Whoa. How many walls does he need?
Yeah, that's like 16 walls.
Yeah. It's too many.
Yeah.
He has to break them all down.
Yeah.
That'd be very tiring.
Yeah, just like the racetrack. And so they finally get their assignment. They're in New York and they have to go after like this. They have to figure out which person is an alien drug lord in disguise, just running things in New York. And it's really tough because there are multiple drug cartels or groups or whatever in New York in this movie, but they're trying to specifically find the ones that are aliens. So it's like even if they find like just a normal drug lord, it's like, oh, they get an F or whatever.
Yeah, they keep on arresting kids who they think are drug dealers. Like, there's one kid who was like handing out lollipops, And then he was like, "You can't do that. There could be drugs in those lollipops." And he like just handcuffs him.
Yeah. And yeah, Janko, like, I guess has like a lollipop addiction because I guess his high school self really loved buying sweets, and Schmidt as well, I guess. So they buy a lot of candy. But it turns out that this candy has drugs in it, so they go through another hallucinogenic episode like in the other movies.
Oh no.
Yeah. So what'd you think of the stuff that they saw and experienced in this hallucination?
They saw Rango, voiced by Johnny Depp. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Wait, aren't you the guy from Jump Street?"
Yeah, like, aren't you the agent who died a few years ago on her first assignment?
Like, he goes, "I've seen your movies before."
Yeah, it's real weird because like Johnny Depp is in a Rango costume.
Yeah, it's not even the CG Rango.
Yeah, it's like a rubber suit that you'd see in something like classic Doctor Who or something.
Like he just got taken out of Disney World.
Yeah, there's also like a colorful vortex behind him, so like they're really tripping out, and then a monkey appears and it tries lecturing them on how like they shouldn't be doing drugs, and it's what'd you think of which actor or actress they used to voice this monkey?
I'm glad they got Dwayne the Rock Johnson to voice the monkey. He just
Yeah.
started singing.
Yeah, he starts singing the theme song to Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Sure, whatever that is.
Yeah, there's a TV show on Netflix that starred Ellie Kemper, who was actually in the first Jump Street movie as one of the teachers, and they even make a comment about that while they're like seeing clips from the show. He's like, Janko's like, "Wait, isn't that the teacher I got with that one time?" But yeah, it's basically the theme song, "Unbreakable, they're alive, damn it, it's a miracle." And yeah, and they basically threw this in because it's, Schmidt's name, and they also show Schmidt from New Girl. It was a whole thing, the sequence. It was weird.
Yeah, I don't understand that bit, but
Yeah,
clearly,
maybe this bit was too American. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, it is an American movie, so
And when they're done tripping out, they wake up in a dumpster, and it looks really nasty. So they get out and they have another one of their arguments.
they were just like swearing at each other for ages. I thought it was just they're trying to beat that Leonardo DiCaprio's movie of how many swears they can put in.
Which movie? Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah. So they're just like saying as many swear words as they could at each other.
Yeah, and it is rated R, so they could like do whatever.
Yeah, what's even great is they have like a counter in the corner of the screen with every swear word they said.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that they made this rated R, especially with Men in Black being like a bit more universal. Like, kids can watch it even though it's like PG-13 or whatever.
Pretty sure it was a Sony movie.
Oh, because I said universal. Yeah, no, you're right. But yeah, just in terms of demographics, it was a weird choice, but I mean, I guess it still brought in enough audiences. I don't know.
I definitely didn't make as much as Deadpool.
Right, yeah. Like it didn't make as much to justify like fast tracking another MIB Jump Street movie,
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about MIB 24, so.
Right. So Schmidt and Janko kind of go their separate ways for a bit. Again, sort of roaming through the streets of New York with some sad music playing. One of them even goes to see Wicked the musical and is just tearing up at the end because of like all the friendship and stuff. And
friendship and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, how else do I describe it? It's friendship and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good sum up.
Yeah. Hey man, I care about you because friendship and stuff. That's what they say to each other when they reunite after this. And then one of the people at MIB headquarters finally figures out a way to give them back their memories, and so they use like a reverse neuralizer type thing on them. And so they regain their memories, and you see like a montage of like all the different adventures they have, basically repeating the end of the second movie where it shows all the different like sequels or whatever. And they're like, whoa, Schmidt, Jenko, I remember you. We were in space, dude. I know, it's crazy, so unnecessary. Yeah. And they're basically just
Elon Musk is so jealous of us.
yeah. Yeah, and they basically just hug it out and are like, dude, you are my brother. I can't believe we were fighting again. Yeah, man, that was just so high school. It's so unprofessional. And
Dude, you're so hot. I bang you right now.
yeah, like Jenko says that, and Schmidt's like, whoa, and then Jenko's like, I mean metaphorically, dude. Am I using that right, metaphorically? And Schmidt's like, I mean, yeah, but still, it's like, oh, I know, I got caught in the moment. Now they finally try to get it together, and they find this suspicious-looking accountant at some bank, and they interrogate him. And they do the thing where they argue about who gets to be good cop and who gets to be bad cop. But what'd you think of how this movie handled that trope for this scene?
It was weird that Janko just like took off his top and started. he took cool cop to be strip cop. I don't know why he thought he said that. Yo, dude, this is not that movie. You're in the wrong movie. And the Schmidt just goes, hey, this isn't Magic Mike. What are you doing?
Yeah, Jenko is just like dancing around. And Schmidt's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to take my shirt off too. And then the accountant's like, no, please, no, I don't want to see. And that makes him spill the information.
Yeah.
So they figure out that the alien drug lords are at this abandoned asylum, which looks sketchy from the outside. I don't know how like that's like a good hiding place if it already looks suspicious, but yeah, they go in there and the lights are flickering and there are some people sitting around, or what appeared to be people, until like they pull a face off of one of them and it reveals that they're actually aliens. So, just all Scooby-Doo and whatnot.
It was even weirder because they were like, it was like 3 a.m. and they seemed like to be like ghost hunters. They're like, yo, be quiet, we're trying to find some ghosts in this haunted asylum. But they don't realize that, they forget that they're aliens.
So they find the alien in charge of this like drug ring type thing, and when they show the drug, it's like they have, the way they do it is they inject it into people, and they're like, if we inject these into people, we can make them do whatever we want and we'll take over the world. And so yeah, the stakes are kind of high, I guess. Jenko and Schmidt, in their MIB uniform and sunglasses and stuff, like pull out their guns and are like, you are coming with us. And then the chase sequence ensues. So what'd you think of this chase sequence?
Well, they just kept on falling over everything. Like they try to jump and they do things like acrobatically, but like Channing Tatum, sorry, not Channing Tatum, Jenko jumps around like he does it flawlessly, and the Schmidt just keeps falling over.
Yeah.
They keep him going back and trying to pick him up. It's like, come on, let's go. Stop messing around.
Yeah, like this alien is in this vehicle that's kind of like a motorcycle, but then it's able to like fly up in the air. And Schmidt's like, wait, I remember this gadget that they gave us at MIB headquarters. And it's this thing that allows them to jump really high, and Janko and Schmidt look at each other and in unison are like, "We are gonna jump the streets," and so they shoot it at their feet, and they're able to like jump ludicrously high heights, leap over buildings, and so they're like trying to jump to each next street, trying to like catch up to the alien hovercraft thing.
Yeah, they jumped over 23 streets. It was insane.
Yeah, and there's a counter, in the corner.
Yeah. The counter in the corner about how many streets they were jumping. They're like 1 jump street, 2 jump street, 3 jump street.
Yeah, and you hear the theme song from the end of the second movie where it's like, "Jump down on Jump Street." You know, it's remix or whatever. And they're finally able to like reach the hovercraft, and when they do, they are like, so they're like leaping, and they are basically going so fast that their feet crash through the hovercraft and make it like fall into Central Park, and basically like the hovercraft is about to like blow up, and then what they do is they figure that, okay, if we jump on this part of the hovercraft, we'll be able to jump off of it, and so they do that and just narrowly avoid getting killed by the explosion, and they like land in like the water in the park or something.
And then, as obviously when Jenko gets out of the water, his like top comes off.
Yeah, Schmidt's like, "Wait, what happened to your shirt?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." Schmidt's like, "Should I take mine off? It's feeling really wet." And Jenko's like, "You don't have to." And so they get out, and like everyone's like really surprised by like all this alien stuff, and MIB is trying to clean it up, and basically they look at Janko and Schmidt and are like, "You can do the honors." As Janko and Schmidt take out their neuralizers, put on the sunglasses, and make the people at the park forget that this happened. What'd you think of the explanation that they gave them as like the cover up?
They were just saying they're doing like some high dive stuff from buildings. They were like base jumpers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just jumping, and well, that wasn't an alien. That was just a guy in a costume from a Doctor Who set in America for some reason. I don't know why they're over here.
Yeah, BBC America or something. And everyone pretty much buys it, and so they go to headquarters, and Ice Cube is there congratulating them, and they get medals and stuff. And Ice Cube is like, "Man, is there anything you can't do?" And Janko looks at Schmidt and is like, "Sometimes I feel like I'm getting too old for this, Schmidt, but it's a lot of damn fun." And yeah, they like high five each other and whatever.
Yeah, freeze frames on the high five.
Yeah. And then during the credits, we see some outtakes where they try jumping over the building, and then like one of them jumps too far into the Atlantic Ocean. And
he tries to jump out. He's like, "Oh, can't jump in water."
Yeah, and in another one of these, they go up to Ice Cube and it's like, "So what's next for us? Are we still working with MIB, or are we going undercover at some other school?" And Ice Cube's like, "Let's wait and see how much money we can get from all this." So, just being meta again.
Like they mentioned that that Sony got hacked, and they're like, "We want to be careful. We don't want to get hacked again."
Yeah. Would you say this crossover was worth it or nah?
Not really. I'd rather watch Men in Black with like Will Smith and co, because they're just a much funnier duo.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this one didn't make enough money to justify continuing through this route, which is why they did Men in Black International. Yeah, I mean, this crossover, I thought it was kind of worth it just to see what it would look like. I knew it would be ridiculous, but I also knew that it wouldn't top the hilarity of 22 Jump Street, and so I had my expectations in check. But I'm glad I saw the crossover, even if it wasn't completely the best, you know.
Yeah.
But well, was there anything else you want to get into before we go into final thoughts?
No, I don't think so. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I guess just thinking about how the genres mesh, I thought it was kind of decent how they mesh, but at the same time really weird. Like it's really weird that this movie was a thing. But it's definitely easier to do it with a more comedic Jump Street than say if they were to do it with like the more serious procedural Jump Street TV show. It just
Men
kind
in
of
Black is still kind of like it's still comedic.
yeah,
Like it definitely isn't as comedic as the Jump Street movies.
right. Yeah, I guess the sci-fi element is what makes this different for Jump Street, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's easier to do with the more comedic side of Jump Street than with the procedural side. But anyway, I guess we could go into final thoughts. So, what are your final thoughts, score out of 10, and do you know of measurement for MIB 23?
It was just a vain attempt at trying to put two franchises together. Because, I mean, you could easily just watch a Jump Street movie or watch a Men in Black movie. Put them together doesn't really make any of the franchises better, because we literally, the only Men in Black part of this movie was the headquarters and the equipment they were using, because obviously
Yeah.
we saw at the end of 22 Jump Street that they were going to space anyway in these sequels. Like they could have just called it 20 or like 42 Jump Street or something,
Yeah.
instead of trying to put it with Men in Black. I'd probably give this movie a 5 out of 10 Jump Streets.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sort of close. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 injections, I guess. Or actually, 6 out of 10 chimichanga injections is what I'll
Of
say.
course, yes. Inject that definitely real food into you.
Yeah. Yeah, like it like the movie is okay at best. Like there are some funny moments here and there, but overall it's pretty much what one would expect. It's really ridiculous, but not in quite as fun of a way as the first two Jump Street movies or in the best comedic parts of the Men in Black movies. This was a really weird idea, but I guess it's not the most weird idea. But yeah, I'm still glad I watched it, even if it didn't quite, like, I don't know if live up is the right word, because I never really expected this to really live up to anything high in particular. So I guess it was basically what I expected, and so it's just there, I guess.
Yeah. It's a bit upsetting, wasn't it?
All right, so thanks for being on, Greg. I guess I'll put the links to the SOC that we're both part of in the show notes. University of Sci. Oh, I almost said it wrong. University of
Sci-Fi.
Yeah, University of Sussex Sci-Fi and Horror Society, or Sci-Fi and Horror Society at whatever the heck it's called. The Discord server.
Yeah, you can put that out. Basically, anyone can join us and watch films with us. Pretty much, I don't really care who comes along.
Right. And I'll put my plugs in the edit.
People could follow me at Steven Shinder on Instagram and Twitter, Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook, stevenshinder.com for info on my book Lemons on My Grain, with a follow-up Trespassing Through the Vestiges on its way sometime. And you can also email Delayed Replay via delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on
Chimichanga.
You can also find me on Goodreads, Letterboxd. My username there is Rotten Tormato.
And you can also find me on Yesshift, a podcast/vlog that I do with my dad. And I think that's pretty much everything.
Thanks again for listening. We are every other week putting out an episode again. So yeah, for the foreseeable future, that's how it'll be. But if it's ever like once a week again for like a special occasion, we'd let you listeners know. But until next, or what's the thing I usually say? Without further delay, have a good day. Nice,
Been too
nailed it.
long.
Fourth season of doing this.
Yeah, you think you have it down by now, but no.
Right. Well, I can't think of a more perfect way to begin this season, honestly.
Oh yes, with a huge mistake.
Yeah. Like MIB 23. All right, but yeah, without further delay, have a good day.